Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's better on draft.
Welcome, everybody. Episode 282 Better on Draft Podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Folks, if you're listening via the podcast, check us out live Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern. We got plenty of guests upcoming, including our guest here today. Before we introduce him, let's go around and see what everybody is drinking, starting with Rob. Rob, what do you got?
Right now, I have got two-handed. I've got a glass of Great Lakes Brewing's Crushworthy Low-Cal Citrus Wheat. And also, because apparently everybody is Irish on St. Patrick's Day yesterday, Great Lakes Brewing's Conway's Irish Ale.
Beautiful. Kanye's Irish Ale? Is that what that was?
I don't believe so, Dan, but what are you drinking?
I'm double fisting over here. I've got a White Russian from Sunup. Can't believe I just said that, by the way. That's kind of funny. And then the only Great Lakes beer you can find in Arizona right now, apparently, is Crushworthy.
Whoa, there's still Crushworthy out there. How about that?
It's on fire sale for $3.99 a six-pack, so yeah.
Yep. That code date's coming up.
For myself, I've got some Santa Claus Taylor, the Holiday Brew, non-alcoholic. Still enjoying the NA beers for right now. But our guest, all the way from the, I was going to say great, but not so great state of Ohio.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you work and what you do?
Sure thing. So Mike Williams, I work at Great Lakes Brewing out of beautiful Cleveland, sitting in front of my Cleveland right there, and then wonderful state of Ohio. Sorry, guys, I know you're a Michigan podcast, but I just had to try out the new setup for this one. It's just coincidental. I have been at the brewery for a decade now, started in our pub as a busser and was looking to teach. Eventually started serving, talking to tables, really liked the interaction with customers there. Then I was able to start giving tours of the brewery a couple years later. And that really scratched that educational itch for me. I had an opportunity to move into marketing and take over all of our beer education efforts. So whether that's new staff members who are coming in, business partners like our retailers and our distributors. And then one of my favorite things to do is stuff like this, hopping on podcasts, talking with guys like you, doing live tastings on our own social feeds, offering full in-depth classes out of the brewery, all that kind of stuff. And I run our Cicerone program internally. So I have level 2 certified myself. Crazy enough, I signed up for level 3. So send me some good vibes, guys. I got a lot of studying to do over the next 9 months or so. So that's me.
Boy.
Let's talk about that first, because I think what's very important for both craft beer bars and breweries is a knowledgeable staff. I don't want the staff, the waiter, waitress to love every single beer, but I want them to understand the beers that they're selling. How do you address such a large, because your brewery is huge. It's 2 stories, giant patio out in Cleveland. Obviously you're selling off premise as well. How do you manage all of that staff and making sure they understand what they're selling?
Yeah. And it's something that's extremely important for us at the brewery. We just went through the process after fits and starts of trying this over the past 2 years. So we finally just got our staff to their certified beer server for the Cicerone program. So everyone front of house is getting that certification. So they're going to be at a certain level of beer knowledge. I offer consistent trainings on our beers, the styles behind them, stories behind them as well. So like the Conways that Rob has, that's the co-owner's grandfather, stuff like that, sensory, all that kind of stuff. That's a big part of my job and what I do. And it's huge for all of our staff, especially because we're an employee-owned company. So having everybody at a high level of beer knowledge is huge. But you're right. It's essential for our partners out there in the field too. So, we're in 14 states in DC. I can't go around everywhere, but especially here in Cleveland, we'll bring in, the airport pub. So we have one of those like co-branded pubs in the Cleveland airport. That's not our staff directly. It's technically like one of our accountants. So we've got them coming in to the brewery next week to get some training with me and our field quality guy. Our sales reps will, depending on what kind of place it is, they'll bring in their accounts here as well. They're also awesome. Our sales reps are very knowledgeable about beer overall. So they do a lot of great training on their own as well. So it's great to have kind of that full team effort in bringing beer knowledge to everybody. Yeah. Does that kind of answer the question?
For sure. What is, some of the more important things that you hammer home with a lot of these staff members to make sure that they understand as you are teaching them so that they can feel confident explaining a beer to a customer?
Yeah. Simplicity is as much of a nerd as I am. I can go deep dives into attenuation and I don't know. I don't like talking about the draft system stuff quite as much, but I can do that as well. I think simplicity is something that's really important for beer education. So like you can get as complex as you want. And I offer those for those staff members and people in the public too, who wanted those deep dives. But in the end, most people out there drinking beer are looking to have fun, enjoy something that tastes good. And just hitting those salient points of okay, so I've got our Tropicoastal right now, Tropical IPA. And it's an American IPA. I use BJCP, Beer Judge Certification Program guidelines as a reference point for what beers are supposed to taste like. So I'll pull some notes from that, just some quick hits on aroma, flavor. What do American hops, what are they supposed to taste like, right? Grapefruit, citrus, stone fruit, tropical fruit for the more modern stuff. For our beers in particular, we do have that storytelling element behind things as well, right? So for our staff in particular, especially for people coming into the pub, having those stories is really important. But it's really just drilling home those basic aspects of beer flavor and aroma, maybe a little bit of the history. So, knowing that IPAs came from England originally and were brewed for export to India, that whole kind of thing. So yeah, I think, and repetition, that's the other thing. We have queue times, before each shift. So I'll go down to the queue times on Friday and just do a quick 2-3 minute thing with staff so that they can constantly keep hearing those. Okay, an American IPA it's going to have tons of aroma, moderate bitterness, that kind of thing. And once that all sets in, incentives are also huge too. If you participate in any of our internal beer education stuff, you get points towards your it's called You Earned It. It's one of those reward systems where you did a good thing, redeem points, I can get a gift card later. So put all that together, and it's really motivating for our staff to learn. Yeah.
Now, I guess in talking about having to describe these beers, I wonder if you can give us a description of this Crushworthy as I am sipping here, because I am really enjoying this this citrus wheat, which is definitely giving me I feel like I'm getting more of the orange than the lemon, but just as I say that, it feels like the lemon just suddenly just came out of nowhere like a damn starburst.
There you go. I like that. It's got a little starburst vibe going on. Yeah, so Crushworthy, that's a lot of these beers, like the Tropicoastal I'm sipping on, Crushworthy that you're sipping on, these are relatively new beers for us. So we've done a ton of innovation over the past 2-3 years, just as the industry has moved so quickly, right? And this one in particular, when I'm teaching, when I bring in new staff, I love for my guided tasting for Great Lakes, key beers. I always start with the Dortmunder Gold. For you guys up there, it's not as big a beer, but for us in Cleveland, that's our pale lager that since 1988, that's almost everyone's gateway beer into craft beer. So I started with Dortmunder, and it's a classic style, right? Dortmund, Germany, in the northwest part of the country. It's a 150-year-old style. And then the next beer I do is Crushworthy, and it's there's no BJCP category for this guy, right? A low cal wheat. That's just a beer that is kind of responding to what a lot of people are telling us that they want, right? So it's got the low calorie thing for the health and wellness trends. We were talking a little bit about NA before this. So we want to give somebody, you know, who's maybe more active lifestyle, that low calorie option. I think I'm 34. The metabolism is not as good as it once was, right? So it's nice for me to have a low calorie option here and there. Wheat's super refreshing, but the fruit is the biggest part, and that's what you were hitting on. So the key with this, go for it. Okay,
I was just saying, it's like, I was just agreeing that the fruit definitely, it definitely kicks in. It's like you get your natural kind of your wheat flavors from the beer, and just as you kind of settle in and kind of feel like, oh, you're just drinking this regular wheat beer, suddenly the fruit kicks in, and it's like, oh, hey, here comes this citrus flavor. I can enjoy this.
And that's a really good insight right there. So when we have the privilege of tasting like the early test batches and stuff, and like that first can run that comes off the can line, and I remember popping this one and sipping it. First couple of sips, I was just like, I don't know, like I'm not really getting it. You know, it's supposed to be a citrus wheat. It's supposed to be, obviously you can tell it's a wheat beer, but it's like leading with those citrus notes. But then I drank the whole can, and as you continue to sip, that natural citrus flavor starts to build up on the palate. And that's kind of what you were describing right there. I get the fermentative character a little bit first, like a little bit of the phenols from the yeast, but then about halfway through the can, it's got that really nice build of natural citrus too. So like I feel it a little bit on the sides, right? So real fruit has a little bit of natural like tartness to it. So it's designed to be a sessionable beer. It's 4%. It's a crusher, so like it makes sense that flavor doesn't like punch you in the face right away, right? It builds up as you drink the beer.
Right. Real quick, I do have some other questions, but real quick, obviously, Nick has just joined us. Nick, how's it going? What you drinking over there?
Happy Friday. I'm starting off in my...
Don't sound so depressed, Nick.
I know, right?
It's been a long week.
Happy Friday, guys.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. In my cheers glass from Boston, I got the Hinterland Packerland Pilsner from Green Bay Brewing. And I'm letting this warm up a little bit. My 2019 Modern Times Coffee Flying Buffalo.
Ooh, damn nice. Good one.
I should have brought some whales, guys. I didn't know we were popping whales. Come on.
Well, there's the unwritten rule on this show. Nothing below 10%.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was not giving that memo.
No.
I'm going to believe
I'm going to the cellar.
Yeah,
I'm going to the cellar.
He says as I'm drinking an actual zero. My job is to bring the average ABV down for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I drink the 0.0s. Nick drinks the 12.2s, and it's really just a 6.1 average.
That's true.
Hey, that's not bad. All right. So one of the things that you had mentioned, we were talking about Crushworthy, is that there's no category for this. Right. And obviously with the rules for this year, that it was mentioned in the news that there were going to be no new categories this year. Obviously, with making a beer like this, it would feel like you would want this to be a category going forward.
Sure.
Is that kind of the feeling?
Are you talking about like from a BJCP or like Brewers Association?
From a BJ, from I guess from either approach, but the big the big competitions, liking to see some like a category being put out there for this style, because it seems to me like low cal is being one of the things that has kind of come into the fold with NA, with seltzers, and now with low cal, because people are being concerned with drinking a beer that, while it's it's great and it's barrel aged and it's 12%, that their 16 ounces is coming up to about 500 calories.
Yeah. I hate logging those in the calorie counter. Does not make me feel good. Still trying to lose that COVID lockdown weight 2 years later. So yeah, I mean, like I was thinking with my educator hat, with regards to like the BJCP stuff, but like if you're thinking about from the sales side, right? There's that general, we did talk about it, and a lot of other industry will say is like the better for you category, right? You can't say it's good for you. We have some murky waters in our industry's history with purported health benefits for beer. But we can say better for you, right?
Right.
And I think all those things that you mentioned, NA, seltzers, they generally fall in that locale, same play, about 100 calories, right? Crushworthy's 105. So it's right there. It's hitting the mark. I mean, that really is one of the biggest growth drivers for the business right now. It's just what's really interesting about it is that we're not thinking in terms of tradition for this kind of beer, right? It's not about just to hop back to maybe Dortmunder or whatever. A Dortmunder lager is supposed to taste like this, and an American IPA is supposed to taste like this. This category that a lot of us are, especially those of us who have like packaged product out on shelves and stuff, it's not necessarily about what the flavor is, but it meets those other specs first, right? It's like, it's around 100 calories. It doesn't, well, if it's a seltzer, it would have the things like it doesn't have sugar and all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of figure out what the beer is after that, right? And that's totally what we did with Crushworthy. We're like, okay, we need a better for you beer. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but we know that it's going to be 100 calories. It's probably going to be about 4% and all that stuff. And then we went backwards and said, this is what the beer style is going to be. Mm-hmm. Anything but another low-cal IPA. Yeah.
Right. Now, a couple of times now, you've mentioned the Dortmunder. I have yet to have it, which goes kind of our conversation before we went on air about the lack of shelf capacity or shelf quantity of Great Lakes Brewing on some of the local craft beer shelves in my area. They're not even worth a shout out because I would just say the city of Livonia has a craft beer problem because they put out kind of the splash craft beers that they're not doing, for me, they're not doing a good service to putting out, what's here in the Midwest and just kind of doing out what's popular. But as you said, that it's more it's a huge draw out there. Talk to us about Dortmunder. What do you have to say to draw me towards this beer, and why is it just so damn popular?
Yeah, we're kind of in an interesting point as a company, or we have been for the past couple of years, where like we had a ton of success. So we're top 25, where we were number 22 in the country for craft beer production by the 2020 numbers. We don't have the results from 2021 quite yet. And what got us there, were beers like Dortmunder, Christmas Ale, which I would think you guys probably have heard of and had before because it's a machine the last 2 months of the year. There you go, my man. Those two beers, some of the other big seasonals like the Conways that you got going, the Oktoberfest for the flip side of the year when we're going from summer into fall. Those are the big drivers that got us to where we are. And of course, for you guys up in Michigan, a lot of our states a little bit further out are huge Evan Fitzgerald fans. That's our lead beer in the state. Yep. Eddie Fitz, Goat Porter and all that. But now, obviously, I mean, based on what I have, Tropic Coastal, Hazy IPA, we're talking Crushworthy. We've kind of we're still keeping all that not old, but the classic stuff, right? Classic brands, while trying to drive forward into some new products just to give other people what they want, what we haven't had before. But anyways, so Dortmunder for me is kind of like, as a Clevelander, it's very symbolic of those first 30 years, what got us here. So classic lager style. We have a proprietary lager yeast in house. So we're the only ones, it's housed at Y East or one of the commercial banks. We're the only ones allowed to purchase it from them. Robust ABV for a lager. It's like 5.8 ABV. It's got we use all American ingredients here, but we use, we got like Mount Hood hops in there that approximates some Hallertau going on. So it's a fantastic beer. It's delicious. It's huge for us here in Cleveland, but even before we kind of made this shift towards some of these newer brands, while not leaving the old ones behind. Dortmunder has never been huge in Michigan. In fact, Dortmunder is really only big for us in the home market really in Ohio and really just like Northeast Ohio. So fantastic beer. You should pop on down to Cleveland and have some on tap at the brewery. Best way to have it. So
that may be a little bit of a difficult thing for me to set foot in the city of Cleveland, as while we are in Michigan, I am a diehard Steelers fan. And me being in Cleveland is unless there's a game going on, might be a little bit of a sacrilege, especially when it looks like you're about to get Deshaun Watson as it is.
Apparently that is a thing.
Yeah. So we'll see about that. But I'm going to pass it down to Dan because he's got some questions.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Browns. Rob, cover your ears for a few minutes. I'm a pretty hardcore Browns fan myself. So how are you feeling about this?
Stop it, Daniel. Come on.
I have been for a number of years.
I knew this was going to come up. Yeah.
$230 million guaranteed. We'll just leave it like that.
How are you feeling about that trade, Mike? I'm feeling pretty good about it.
You know what? I haven't had a lot of time to process it. I popped down by the gift shop and they're like, Deshaun Watson. I was like, oh, that happened. Okay. That's a thing. Yeah.
Interesting, because he said he wasn't going to do it a couple of days ago. But actually getting into the Browns, I want to talk about 73 Kolsch. I love that you guys make a Joe Thomas beer. I'm curious, how did this come about? Was he involved in it? Can you tell us the story about this beer?
It's so
Legend.
Fun.
Yeah.
So the Iron Man. Yeah. He, so our, let's see, first 27 years or so, Pat and Dan Conway, co-owners of the company, they're still around, still kicking today, still very much so, still very involved in the company. They ran the thing themselves up until 2015. And in 2015, they hired a CEO, just because the guys are getting a little older and stuff, kind of time for Pat to retire, even though we still saw him every day. This CEO just happened to be neighbors with Joe Thomas. And so they got to talking, over, I don't know, whatever, talking over the white picket fence, or I don't know if they were sharing a beer or something like that. They're like, wouldn't it be cool if we like collabed on a beer together? And Joe, Joe's a beer fan. He was super pumped, but I think he didn't want to do it while he was still playing. So then once he retired in, what was that? I don't know, 16, 17, something like that.
2017, yeah.
17, yeah, because this year's, I think, our 5th year of the collab. We got that cooking. So it's totally collaborative with Joe. He came down to the brew pub in Cleveland, and our brewmaster and pub brewer bought like just a bunch of different classic examples of styles of beer, put them out on a table, and they just started popping them and tasting them all and saying, okay, I kind of like that. That's cool. And Joe really guided what he wanted that beer to taste like. So it's a Kolsch, that traditional, not too far from Dortmund, actually. Cologne, not too far from Dortmund. Classic Kolsch, like a rice door for whatever gaffle, is going to be very light, a little minerality to it. Neither hop nor malt are too strong, but very crisp and refreshing beer. Typically around maybe like a 4.5%. But this is a Browns beer. So it's 5.7%. It's a little bit higher. Nice. Yeah. But it's got all those notes that you would expect more or less in a Kolsch. There's a fun twist. There's a little bit of rye in there too. So the rye is going to give you a little bit of spice. And it turned out just how the man himself wanted it to. And that's been we have 2 beers that are kind of Cleveland area only. There's one for note I'm wearing my Guardians hat right now, right? So we have our Rally Drum Premium Lager, which is great for the ballpark all summer. And then 73 Kolsch, which comes out right around when, preseason stuff would start. So very fun project.
Awesome. I'm glad he was involved with that too. You get a lot of people putting their names on beers and they have nothing to do with it. So it's always good to hear a story like that.
And we wouldn't take advantage of his image. He comes down to the pub too. We do an event with him every year. So I got to MC a brewmasters dinner where he was telling stories the whole time. That was pretty fun.
You brought up the Guardians too, and your beer with them. Do you plan on, or I should say, does the brewery plan on changing the name since the team name changed? I assume that had to do with it being the Indians previously.
So the name, right. The name is an homage to, sure, yes, there's the Indians connection, but how familiar you guys are with the Cleveland baseball team, but there's a longtime super fan, John Adams, who he beats a drum when we're rallying, right? At any point during a game. So the name, and we actually had Rally Drum before we officially partner with the Guardians. We're the official craft beer of the team. Rally Drum may have existed before that partnership began. So we obviously could not name the beer, like Cleveland Indians beer or anything like that. So
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say we had already built up the name. People know the name, and sure, we're not the Indians anymore, but everybody still loves John Adams, and there wasn't really a need to change the name. Just because the team name changed.
Fair enough. Now, I wanted to ask you about your barrel aging program. I know you have a lot of beers, but they all seem to be pub exclusive. I don't see too many that seem to be packaged or distributed. Can you talk to us about that and why it's only a pub exclusive versus distributing?
Sure. Yeah, we have a scale thing. That's a big thing for us. We grew up when we were growing up as a brewery. We grew a lot in the first kind of late 90s, but especially the first decade of 2000s. And it's amazing. It's only 10, 15 years ago, right? But the way that the industry operates today is so different from then. People want limited, rare, any sort of flavor profile all across the board. Prize stuff, certain breweries do a great job of tapping into barrel age programs, whether it's a Founders or a New Holland or whatever. But when we built out our facility, that just wasn't a reality yet. It was you had 3 or 4 core beers and you had a seasonal release, and that was the limited thing that people went crazy over, right? And that was it. That's how the industry kind of operated. So once we got to this, I guess the past decade, the 2010s, where a lot of those more niche things really blew up, we just didn't have the infrastructure to be able to support stuff like that. So in fact, we only packaged 2 barrel-aged beers. We packaged the barrel-aged Blackout Stout, so base Russian Imperial Stout, and he's been doing 4 Roses for the past couple of years. And we barrel-aged Christmas Ale, which of course blows everybody's brains, just totally explodes and oozes out of their ears and stuff for that one. I love the Blackout a little bit more, but barrel-aged Christmas Ale is also fantastic. And that one actually did see a little bit of distribution this past year. I'm not sure if it made to Michigan though. I know we did some distribution throughout Ohio. So there might be an opportunity in the future, knowing that we made that decision. I think we're kind of testing the waters, maybe. You never know. You might see a little bit more of that in the future. Flip side, too, there's always something about drawing people down to the pub, right? We want to make sure we're taking care of the restaurant and driving traffic there. So when you have a brewery-only release, that's incentive for people to come on down to us in Cleveland and try that stuff on tap.
Awesome. Now, I know Ken was telling you before the show that, I'm a big Nosferatu fan.
That's right.
Talk to us about why did that beer go away for so long and what made you decide to bring it back?
So Nosferatu actually has not gone anywhere. And since you're talking Nosferatu, I don't know if this may or may not be a wise decision, but I think I'm gonna switch to Imperial here. Since I got to bring the average ABV back up a little bit. So
Nice.
Nosferatu actually never went away. It has gone through some name changes. Obviously, it's always been called Nosferatu, but we called that a stock ale back in the day. And then more recently, it's been an Imperial Red Ale. We switched last year. So we had a specialty like rotating 4-pack series. And it would be this beer, Lake Erie Monster, Nosferatu, a couple other high gravity beers. So knowing like, unfortunately, we can only package so many beers, right? And we knew that people really wanted, it's just the world we live in, right? IPA is king. And interestingly enough, despite what we were talking about earlier with the better for you stuff like Crushworthy, we were also seeing Imperial strength beers also take off, which totally doesn't make sense if you think about it from a certain perspective, right? Like both low calorie beers and Imperial beers are taking off. But then again, people did not do a lot of driving over the past 2 years and all that kind of stuff. And we're all a little bit more selective with what we choose for specific occasions, right? So like, it's a day where it's 70 degrees out in March and I'm going to the park for a picnic or something like that. I might want to do Crushworthy. And then for us in Cleveland, the next day it's 25 degrees and there's half a foot of snow on the ground. So I'm cuddling up and watching movies. I'm going to crack some Imperial IPAs. So we made this Imperial IPA series, which you can't really tell. You can kind of see it up there, Imperial IPA series. And so it rotates every 2 months. Lake Erie Monster kicked it off. Chillwave's out now. We have some fun new stuff coming up, but Nosferatu actually fits into the Imperial IPA series now. It comes out when it usually does in September, leading up to Halloween. So it's still around. It's possible, like if you were, you're in Arizona though, right?
I'm in Arizona, yeah.
So we actually don't even normally distribute in Arizona, but we did a drop at Total Wine. Did you get that from Total Wine?
I absolutely did. You caught it.
Yeah, you did, right? Of course.
Yep.
So the past couple of years around the holidays, we've done a drop at Total Wine because, a lot of people have moved from Cleveland to either Arizona. We've also sent some to Florida. And that's why that Crushworthy is still hanging around. It's got a really long code date. So
yeah,
Nosferatu would not make it out there typically.
Oh, that's too bad. So I'm glad you actually brought that up. See, I think you mentioned you distribute to 14 states plus DC. Is that correct? Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Do you feel you're at the right number of states where you distribute? Do you feel you could expand further? Do you think it's too much? How do you feel as far as that goes currently?
We're in a sweet spot for us right now. Our facility, we could probably crank out 150,000 barrels, something like that, if we were really humming the whole time. But probably not much more. So if we're going to open up new territories, like say, we got a ton of requests for Florida, some adjacent states to where we distribute, like Tennessee, maybe more into New England, New York City. We're in upstate New York, but we're not in the city. We're probably going to need, almost certainly going to need more capacity to do that kind of thing. So it's a delicate balancing act because opening an entire new brewery is also probably a bit much because that's a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of work, all that stuff. So I don't know exactly how we solve that capacity problem, right? So yeah, right now we're actually we're in a good sweet spot. We actually past couple of years, the whole industry, it's been tough for the industry, right? 2020 was a huge down year for everybody.
Yeah.
So with the capacity we have right now, we're actually in a great spot. We're thankfully very much back on the upswing, but not quite in need of, a large amount of excess capacity yet.
Awesome. All right, Nick, I'm going to pass it over to you.
let's talk about your winter maintenance shutdown for a second.
Okay.
It's not. It's in, at least I haven't, or any of us haven't really heard of breweries taking a break, so to speak, to do maintenance on the production line. Talk to us about that a little bit. Why do it? Because we don't hear a lot about breweries doing anything like that. It's kind of like the auto plants taking a shutdown during during the summer. If I had to equate it to something, talk to us about why Great Lakes does that, and what are the benefits of doing that?
Yeah. So it's been shutdown season for us. The first quarter of the year, basically. The brew pub itself. So for us, we have the production facility across the street. That's a 75 barrel system. That's the big boy that brews everything that goes in bottles and cans and kegs and stuff. And then we have across the street, we have the brew pub, which is the 7 barrel system. Does everything for, we still pump the production beer from across the street, but then, special one-off small batch type stuff gets brewed on that system. That had the winter shutdown in late January. That's simply because it's super dead. It's like people aren't going out that much. They're getting off their dry January. They're still pretending to be committed to their New Year's resolutions, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's an ideal time for us to do the winter shutdown for the pub. It does so happen that we're also doing the shutdowns for the brewery itself, and that is a symptom of our very interestingly structured portfolio. So we have, if you kind of look at our overall layout, we've of course got the year-round beers, which are year-round, so we're always making them. Got the rotational Imperial IPAs, but then the seasonal slot is something that's really interesting for us. Conways, huge, big beer for us. We brew and package most of our Conways starting in like mid-December, and we're done with it by, I don't know, end of January, something like that. Then we don't have another big seasonal until Oktoberfest, which we're going to start ramping brewing that one up in May, June. Lager it out, package it, release it later in the summer. So we've always had this really interesting slot. Ironically enough, in the time where probably most people are drinking beer, like early summer leading up to the 4th of July, we have not had a strong seasonal beer in that slot. And so that's why we take this time of year, we actually just don't have as much going on right now. So we're able to afford the time to shut down the facility, take everything apart, really break down, the packaging lines and replace all the parts that need replaced. And all that stuff you need to do, that TLC you need to give the brewery to make sure it keeps putting out quality beer. That being said, we are hopeful. Obviously, we want to sell more beer, right? So we are hopeful that we have two beers. One's out right now. It's a Hefeweizen with some lemon. It's got this adorable little lemon head guy sitting on a beach chair. He's got like little legs there dangling off the chair and stuff. It's kind of like a summer. It's not a shandy, but it's kind of like summer shandy inspired. So that's out right now for spring. And then we have a Mexican lager with lime. So basically Corona, that's already got the lime squeezed in it. Better, but same kind of idea. And we're hoping that one of those two beers is going to kind of take that second quarter seasonal slot and really dominate. People love the Mexican lager around here. So I have pretty high hopes that that's going to, as important as it is to do these brewery shutdowns, it'd be better to figure out times to fit it in because we're still making that much beer.
Fair enough. I can't, equating it to the autos, trying to figure out how to fix a part of the line that's putting out a truck or a car, putting that into beer, in the beer world, compared to the beer world. Yeah, you would obviously want to try to spit more out, but if it's not functioning properly, then what's the point? So that makes total sense. One thing that drew my attention was, let's talk about, I'm not sure if it was brought on because I did come on a little late. Let's talk about ranch water for a second.
Oh yeah, we have not talked about it yet.
When I think about Great Lakes Brewing, I think, you mentioned it earlier, Edmund Fitzgerald. Everyone knows it. We all love it. So whenever you hear Great Lakes, that's the beer you immediately think about. We don't. And so when I saw ranch water pop up, and I'm like, okay, this is obviously a seltzer line.
Yeah.
Talk about how that came to be. Did you guys see a market for it in Ohio, in the greater Cleveland area? Obviously, I'm guessing yes, because you did it. But
sure.
Why did the name ranch water even become the
Sure.
seltzer line for Great Lakes? And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So we knew, just Crushworthy is better for you, but that's the beer option. We know tons of people drink seltzer, right? I mean, White Claw and Truly, between those two, I mean, goodness, they're almost like 10% of the beer category, since they dominate seltzer so much. And I believe overall seltzer is about 1/10 of all beer. And craft brewers have been getting into it over the past couple of years. We're certainly not unique in this regard. We knew we wanted to get into the segment, but there's so many. You can kind of call them like the white label kind of blank minimalist brands out there already, right? That are just standard carbonated water, some fruit flavoring in there. That's it. So, and the seltzer category kind of by nature is driven by innovation, trying new things, the latest trend, the latest fashion, right? And not saying that in a shallow way or anything like that. So by the time we were starting to R&D our own seltzer, we had started to see some movement on a couple of these ranch water brands. And for the listeners out there who don't know what a ranch water is a classic West Texas cocktail, tequila, lime, and Topo Chico, if you are being authentic, right? So a couple of those started to kind of pop up, and they're starting to get attention from some of the larger brewers like Diageo that owns Guinness and so on. They made a significant investment in a ranch water brand. So we said, okay, looks like it's starting to emerge as a trend. So we said, rather than just do a regular old seltzer, whatever, let's try the ranch water thing. So we started brewing some pilot batches, 2020, summer 2020. Really tough to do new brand launches during COVID, right? But somehow we've managed to pull this off over the past couple of years. So we'd be brewing, and in Ohio, I think Michigan and Ohio have had kind of similar policies, but like we started getting some on-premise action back in like late May. And so people are coming to the pub, and we had ranch water up on the board. And what do you guys think people thought when they saw ranch water? They thought Hidden Valley, right?
That's what I thought until you explained what ranch water was.
Right.
It's
totally.
ranch and
Exactly.
I would not have guessed. So
We're all in the same boat, right? We're all Midwesterners. So.
Yes, we are.
So that was hilarious. And then, of course, that was that education to bring it back towards the top of the program. That's where that education for our staff really kicks in, and you can have that aha moment with the customer. So we are indeed some batches in the pub, well received once people understood that it was not dressing in carbonated water form. And the following year, we, developing, especially with the supply chain constraints that we have, it took us enough time to develop the packaging for it, secure the packaging for it, right? All that kind of stuff. Alternative production space, seltzer is the kind of thing that you have to have specialized equipment. So we partnered with another co-packer to make it for us. And then, that's it. It's been, we released it at an interesting time. We released the seltzer, which is, by the way, only Northeast Ohio. Sorry, it just hit all of Ohio starting in February. So we released it in late October not when we necessarily wanted to. We wanted to release it sooner, but we just couldn't get the packaging. But we also wanted to make sure that we were out there as a ranch water early. And what it's been so far is basically like it's kind of like a sampling opportunity, so that by the time summer hits, and seltzer's a year-round thing, but just like with all beer, seltzer sees a big bump in the warmer months. So we're pretty hopeful that in Ohio, that's really going to take off as we get into the warmer weather. So we shall see.
Is there a ranch water flavor that you would like to see? Because if you look at like your White Claws and your Trulies, the big brands, well, because they are big brands, they have like 15,000 of them between the two of them. I mean, they have the tea ones, and they have you mix the two citrus flavors together, and then you have your lime. Is there a flavor that you'd like to see come out? I know it's in its infant stages.
Right.
Is there one that you would like to see later down the road?
Sure.
All right, now we got to know what flavor it is.
This is okay. So this is I'm not typically a seltzer drinker. I also don't poo-poo seltzer or anything like that. When we were doing one fun thing I'll do with staff is to help them understand why, we of course want our staff to say our options are the best and stuff like that. Well, I say like, okay, you can say that, but if you haven't tasted something else, then how authentic is that? So when I'm doing my trainings, I'll have our offering, and then I'll bring in 2 or 3 others, and we taste them side by side. And I had White Claw mango.
Oh,
I was like, oh no, I like this. So I would like to see a mango. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know what it is about the White Claw mango, but people go absolutely bonkers for it.
Yep.
So
you got those home run flavors, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm going to turn this over back to Mr. Ken. Ken?
So we had actually a question from our chat. If you are listening via the podcast or live, you can always join us, facebook.com/betterondraft or twitch.tv/bod podcast. Somebody had an interesting question. I don't have a can in front of me, so I can't really see. With the upcoming and current shortage on cans and your broad range of beers that you have, are you guys noticing any type of issues that you're going to run into or potentially run into with the canning of your beers?
Sure. Yeah. We've navigated that pretty well so far. Going forward, I mean, there's still enough uncertainty where we're not entirely sure which way to feel. You know what I mean? Like, we have good relationships with our can supplier. We are working our butts off in marketing to make sure we're way, way ahead of any sort of, deadlines for having artwork in the packaging manufacturers is like 7 months at this point. It's crazy. So we're going to make it work. But believe it or not, there's also a glass shortage too. Some of the major brewers actually have had some lost sales over the past year because they couldn't get glass. Now, a lot of the talk at the beginning of COVID was aluminum, but glass has been an issue too. We did a great job, especially in 2020 and into early 2021, of pivoting where we needed to. So like the oatmeal stout that comes out right around our Christmas sale that was supposed to be a can in 2020. Couldn't get the cans. So design hustled real fast and got a bottle label whipped up, and we were able to bottle that. The bottles are coming from all over the place. Like our regular suppliers, just like any other suppliers, it's just unable to provide everything because of that massive shift that happened, right? So yeah, we've been rolling with the punches. We're going to keep doing it for as long as we have to. I think we feel better now than we did probably at this point last year, and definitely in 2020. But that's going to be a challenge for sure. It's going to. I don't think anybody in the industry has any sort of, we're not thinking about a timeline at this point. I think we thought things would be okay by now. It's just like, for the foreseeable future, this is just the reality. So just adds a little bit more excitement to the day-to-day.
All right. As we go into the ending of the show, everyone's going to ask you a final question, and then we'll give you the opportunity to talk about what's upcoming for Great Lakes Brewing. So I'm going to start with Rob over here. Rob, what's your final question?
All right. This is a pretty simple question, but it has a little bit of a lead up to it. But I've been wanting to ask this since I read about it like last week. I read that last December, Great Lakes Brewing hosted a 5-course Die Hard themed dinner, complete with Nakatomi Tower sticky rice, German Twins Dortmunder gold infused currywurst, and Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Clucker chicken spring roll.
That's right.
I just simply want to know, do you believe Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Good answer.
I had the honor of I MC most of the dinners. That was a distinct honor to MC that dinner. And the chef went all out, man. Like, I just loved it. Like, we were talking about, hey, we're gonna do a holiday brewmasters dinner. We leave it up to the chef to whatever theme he wants to do, and he just responded. It was like a 4-word email or a couple word emails like, how about Die Hard? And we're just like, yes, absolutely. And it was amazing. And he came out and he told the whole story. I was like, you're awesome, man. Yeah. It's a Christmas movie.
He should have had like an appetizer of, oh my God, the avocado is toast.
Nice. Yeah.
That's mine.
Nick, what's your final question?
All right. Clearly, you must be a Cleveland Browns fan. 2022 season coming up. What's their record going to be? And remember, it's 17 games this year.
Right.
What's their record, knowing what's transpired here in the last?
What has transpired?
Hours?
Right. Yeah.
What's the Browns record going to be?
I think they'll get. I think they can be a 12-win team.
Then they're going to knock Pittsburgh out in the first round of the playoffs.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean,
well, we won what? What did we win in 2020? We were 11-5, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then eliminated Pittsburgh in the playoffs. So right around
there,
I do not need to be reminded of that, Dan. At home, by the way.
Well, in all fairness, the Lions almost did beat Pittsburgh, but that was that was without Big Ben.
In all fairness, the Browns beat Cincinnati twice this year. Maybe they should have been in the Super Bowl, but we won't go there.
We were one game behind the Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
I could see 12 wins. I mean, just with Deshaun himself. So I'm not gonna knock that at all. Sucks, but I gotta be real with it.
Dan,
hey, you got Mitch, man. You got Mitch now. You're good. Yeah.
Hey,
he's a Cleveland boy, so yeah. He rained terror on. I went the high school I went to. He was QB when I was there for a little bit, and he's good.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so Ken actually just passed me this question. He wanted me to ask you. He was scared to ask you himself. But we noticed you have an alt beer that you do for a pub only release. Are you planning on ever packaging that, or can you send Ken a keg because he just wants to put in his kegerator and drink it all day?
Here we go.
That would be a very special request for the pub brewer. Yeah. Dude, I love an alt beer. Yeah. It's been a number of years since we've actually brewed that one, unfortunately, though.
Yeah, I already checked their website, Dan. They had 3 different ones, and the last one was brewed probably when Michael was a busser at Great Lakes Brewing.
It's time to make it again.
I think that's actually accurate right there. Sorry, man.
Sorry, Ken.
I honestly, I
feel the pain though.
I have the beers that I like. If I don't go for an alt beer, if they don't have an alt beer, there's still English milds, ESBs, brown ales, ambers. Like there's plenty of beers for me to drink.
All the beers that I just wish. You know how it is when you're a brewer, when you're a packaging brewer like us. You want to brew all those beers, but you can't because we like to stay in business. So.
You need to make ESBs a new IPA and just have like 20 variants of it out there. Man,
I wish. Yeah.
We've told the story 100 times. I mean, Old Nation was probably we won't say will,
Yeah.
but probably on the brink of going out of business, and M43
Right.
saved them. And
Yep.
you're not going to be able to sit here and tell me Travis Fritz is a terrible brewer. He's easily one of the best brewers in the country, but people don't drink, the beers that he
Right.
can run circles with. And I mean, he found M43, he made it, and he made it amazing, and he continues to make all of those New England beers amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those. I've come to terms with it, Daniel, that I am not going to get those beers. Real quick, my final question for you. I'm just going to steal the one that Nick usually asks. In your fridge right now, not Great Lakes Brewing, what can we find?
Ooh. Well, let's see. I love our buddies down I-71 at Fatheads. Headhunter is one of the GOAT IPAs out there. I have a wild ale from Columbus Brewing. Some buddies of ours as well. I think that's is that the peach sour? I think it might be a peach American Wild. And then most importantly, it's not in my fridge right now, but right outside my fridge, ready for a bottle share in a couple weeks. I have I'm a Tampa Bay Beer Week boy. I go on vacation down to Tampa every March, and I love going to Cycle in downtown St. Pete. And I have their
good beer.
No, they do the set, right? So they do a different release every day of the week for Beer Week. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a bunch of one's got vanilla hazelnut, the other's got yada yada yada. Their big one's Scoop, like the Neapolitan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Saturday.
One sec.
Uh-oh.
I got my whale ball. I popped this with my brother. Oh, you guys can't. Okay, there you
Yeah, I can't see it.
Oh, yeah.
The festival beer. That's the old Scoop.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
So a lovely place, St. Petersburg, Florida is.
Well,
That's all I got.
That's going to do it for the Better on Draft podcast. Great Lakes Brewing, you guys are out of Cleveland, Ohio. Where can they find you? What do you got upcoming? Where can they find you online?
Yep, GreatLakesBrewing.com. We are on all the socials. GLBC _Cleveland for both Twitter and Instagram. And I believe we are on, I know we're on TikTok, and I believe it's the same handle. We, of course, have a Facebook page, too. Fun stuff coming up. Weather's breaking, so that lemon hef we were talking about before is coming out. We have a variety pack of Crushworthy coming out in May. So stay tuned for that. That's all markets, so you guys will have it. That's got like Crushworthy watermelon, grapefruit, and lemon lime. There's a new Imperial Ipa in the series coming out in June. That's an Imperial grapefruit with a little bit of like ginger and stuff in there too. So yeah, it's still cooking up a lot of fun new stuff coming up for the rest of the year.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. If you're listening via the podcast, of course, you can watch us live 7 p.m. Eastern, betterondraft.tv, facebook.com/betterondraft. You can actually check out the YouTube video and see Michael lose internet here.
That's right.
Over at youtube.com/betterondraft. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Nice. See you guys.
Peace.